I'm the cameraman. Go.
I'd like to thank y'all for joining me today. I'm Rhonda Davidson. I'm going to be your presenter on how to construct a cake. Some of my cakes that I've made in the past you can find on cakeconnection.ecrater.com. There are several on there for you to look at the different styles of the tiered cakes. First of all, the most important thing with constructing a cake is timing. You have to have everything in place. I suggest that you make your cake layers up the day before and refrigerate them. A lot of people don't like to do this because they think that it takes away from the freshness of the cake. But with the method that I'm going to give you, it's going to moisten the cake to where you won't have to worry about that. And it's going to save you time in the long run. I'm not here to tell you how to make a cake. I think pretty much everybody knows how to make a cake. The tricky part is constructing a cake and getting it from point A to point B with no disasters. I'm going to put a little method here that I've illustrated and a copy of a cake. This is a tiered cake. It's a little bit different than most tiered cakes because it has the photo cube in the middle as your support. And most people would look at that and say, oh, well, you know, there's your stabilizer method. But that's not the case because this cube was very heavy. So you needed a stabilizer method underneath the photo cube. I'm going to give you these so y'all can follow along with me as we go. And they're pretty much, for the most part, some of them are repetitive, but each one is essential in making sure that the layer below is stable, okay, and that you're getting the moisture in the cake that you're wanting and everything else. The first one I've already went over. Have your cake layers pre-cooked. Have all of your supplies laid out, kind of like I've got here on the table. You need to make some decisions beforehand. You need to decide what type of finish you're going to have on top of your cake, whether it's going to be a frosting or whether it's going to be a fondant. And this is going to help you determine what type of stabilizer method you're going to need because of the weight of the cake. Have plenty of workspace and make sure there's no distractions. Because like I said, this is a timed process and you need to have everything you're going to be using laid out, and you're not going to have time to have to answer the phone or deal with customers or anything like that. So you need to have distractions set aside. You need to have plenty of workspace, like I said, because when you're, depending on what method you use, the fondant requires a lot more workspace than the frosting. Okay, when you're ready to start with the first layer, this is going to be the bottom layer. You're going to apply your cake layer to a cardboard bottom that is the same size as, if you use a 9-inch bottom, you're going to need a 9-inch circle. And you're going to have in place a sugar and water base. Now this goes back to what I was talking to before about pre-cooking your layers and having them in the refrigerator. This sugar and water base is going to add the moistness to the cake that you're wanting. The second layer is you're going to be determining what your stabilizer method is. And I've got an illustration here of a cake. These are the layers. This is a dowel stabilizer, and this is used generally on a cake that's not going to be that heavy. On this one, believe it or not, I used a straw. And you think, how can a straw be a stabilizer? Because when you stick this straw in that cake, this tube is going to fill with the filling, with the cake. So it's going to help reinforce it. And I mean, this straw is as sturdy as this. So like I said, you're going to want to determine what you're going to need. On this cake, fondant was used. And like I said, the straw stabilizers were used underneath it. And the shorter you cut your straw, the more strength you're going to have for the top layer. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question. How do you, if there's all these different methods, how do you decide which one to use?
It determines on how much space you're wanting between your tiers. Like this was easy because I used this stabilizer underneath this divider. So this was easy. But if you're going to use pillars and you're going to have, say, a 2 to 3 tier cake, you're going to want strong plastic pillars to use in between. And like I said, a lot of it's going to depend on what your topping is as well. So I guess I'd just like to round it up and say that your stabilizer method is to get your cake set up successfully and without any catastrophes from point A to point B, and have fun with it. This cake was a lot of fun to make. I got to make all the different circles and colors, and so thank y'all all for coming.